The project first began here in 1992. The previous year, the late President, His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, had expressed interest in having archaeological research done on some of the islands of Abu Dhabi. Because Sir Banias was important to him as a wildlife reserve, an island he was very fond of, he specifically asked if we could start to do some initial survey work here on Sir Banias. The first team came down in 1992 and spent 5 or 6 days on the island, finding over 30 individual archaeological sites, of which the group on the eastern side of the island, in the Al Khor district, has subsequently proved to be the most important. This is one of those sites. During the initial survey, bits of plaster were found on the surface that were decorated, pieces of pottery that were perhaps 6th or 7th century AD, perhaps a little later. It was obvious it was worthwhile coming back to do some more detailed survey and excavation. So the first excavations in this area began in 1993, directed by Dr. Joseph Elders, who is currently our archaeological director on this project. He first excavated a little house just to the north of here, and then, the subsequent season, came down and did the work here. We worked here for 4 or 5 seasons during the 1990s and discovered what has proved to be one of the most significant archaeological sites not only in the United Arab Emirates but in the whole of the Arabian Gulf.
After the initial survey in 1992, we identified a number of archaeological sites here on the site we're on now, but also in the Pens just to the north of here, where there seem to be 7 or 8 smaller sites.
We knew we had some kind of settlement to the 5th to 8th century AD, so from approximately 1,200 to 1,500 years ago, but we had no idea what kind it was. There wasn't very much in the way of pottery, so we thought this was a very strange sort of settlement. Then we started to broaden our excavations and found the very first plaster cross. When we found that, it became very clear that this was a Christian settlement, and we began to wonder at that point, was it possible that this was some kind of organized settlement like a monastery? We then found a very regular building. It became quickly clear it was over 15 meters long and 11 meters wide, and that we were dealing with a very substantial building indeed. We immediately began to find more beautiful decorated plaster with crosses and grape designs.
The shoreline has changed in recent years and is much further away now than it would have been previously, and the monastery originally would have been quite visible from the sea to any passing boats or ships.
People would then have approached through the east gate to the monastery into a small courtyard area. Just inside the gate there are 2 platforms which might have been used for preaching by priests. Inside that, the main building you see is the church, a basilica-like church. The church this belonged to was the Church of the East, more commonly known as the Nestorian Church. They split from Rome in the 5th century over doctrinal issues about the nature of Christ, and began to spread east throughout Arabia, following the trade routes across to India, and beyond that to Central Asia, to places like Tibet. They soon became, within the first 300 or 400 years, the largest Christian church in the world, in terms of geographical spread, and probably also people. It's quite clear that their decision to found a monastery on Sir Baniyas was politically and economically motivated. This is an excellent stopping-off point on the journey from the head of the Gulf, Kuwait and Iraq, all the way to India. It has great potential for shedding light on the origins and development of early Christianity in this region. It is something that the government is very keen to have exposed. The country's leaders have specifically asked that this site should be further developed, expanded and opened up so that it can be explained to visitors and to residents of the UAE. It's a key part of the project. One important part of the strategy of the Tourism Development and Investment Company, TDIC, is to make it possible not only for foreign visitors but also for the people of the United Arab Emirates itself to see the country's history, heritage and culture. There's a well-known saying of the late Sheikh Zayed that a people that does not know its past cannot understand its present or be prepared for the future. Well, this is a key part of that past.